Hi everyone, how's it going? My name's Taylor. I'm a reporter with the Washington Post, and I'm really excited to be here with Daniela.
Hi everyone.
Just to start out with Daniela, it's the beginning of a new year. I would love to hear a little bit about some of your priorities and kind of what you're looking ahead toward in 2025.
Yeah, I was intrigued by what I just heard. I think for me, at the moment, it's to stick to keeping our people our top priority, putting people first. When there's so much turbulence out there, I think my role is to be the voice of our workforce and to make sure that our people can thrive, that we create a work environment where people want to be part of Team Siemens and that we help them navigate along the way. That's top of mind for me.
Of course. With that in mind, tell me a little bit about your workforce, the size, how it's distributed, and kind of the challenges and also opportunities that presents from a talent attraction perspective, from a workforce development perspective, all that good stuff.
Yeah. May I ask, who knows Siemens? Ever heard? Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Because it's not often or not all the time the case, because we are a technology company in the B2B space, so not really a consumer brand, right? So therefore, it's not as well known as some consumer brands. A bit about Siemens or the context. We are a huge company. We have around 300,000 people across the world, more than 45,000 employees in the United States. And that about workforce and talent means we have a very different workforce of all job families covering all areas around engineering, software development, manufacturing. We have a large manufacturing footprint. So we have to cover all of the different needs and the skill and capability building. I would also say the company has been around since 176 years in the meantime. So I like to describe us as a living organism. We had that pre-discussion, right? Because I think if you manage to stay competitive and ahead of the curve for so long, also 160 years in the United States, by the way, already, it just means that you need to be innovative and to be able to reinvent yourself over and over again. And I think that's the core of what we do. Try to stay adaptive, agile, and focus on the things that we need to innovate and also how we need to foster and create our workforce strategies around it.
Of course. And one of the topics I think is top of mind for a lot of HR folks this year is flexible work. Obviously, we've seen a lot of back and forth around that, particularly in DC just this past couple of weeks. Could you chat a little bit about Siemens' journey with RTO, flexible work generally, and how you arrived at a place that feels right for your culture?
I think one of the advantages when you're such a global company and such a large company in terms of workforce is that it's almost like a playground. Because you can try out so many different things. You can work in different industries, in different geographies. You can also move across different functions. And that, to me, just creates huge option rooms. That's how I would call careers nowadays. When I think of what we are fostering, it is really that we attract the right talent for the role in the moment, when we are seeking capabilities and capacities. But then what a person needs in order to develop is really unique. I like to think of each and every one of us that we have a unique skill set or almost like a backpack of skills and capabilities and experience. So what each and every one of us needs to continuously adapt is very different. And that means we are in a completely new era of how we have to think about workforce development and learning and development overall, enabled by technology. It means we need to reach everyone, personalized, at scale. 10 years ago, people would have said, this is almost like a paradox. You cannot do that. In the meantime, you can do that. I can only say we launched our My Learning World, which is our learning platform internally around 6 years ago, luckily, right before COVID. I cannot tell you how happy I was that we were ready. It was actually an experiment, and all of a sudden it went live, and then COVID hit, and we were ready to reach our people in times when otherwise it was very difficult to reach everyone. It's in the meantime our #1 used platform or tool in the whole company. Our people just love to engage. They love to see what's out there. They love to seek the opportunities of more than 130,000 learning opportunities, and they pick their path. Of course, you need to guide, but nonetheless, you need to spark that curiosity, you need to nudge people, and you need to give the space that people can do what they need to learn and grow.
Sure. And so in that context, I think you mentioned the other day, you have a kind of team-by-team model in terms of the structure for flexible work, right? How does that kind of empower teams to do what they need to do?
I think flexibility comes in many different ways. Huh? A lot is always talked about working from home, or do you have to go to the office? To me, the conversation is much more dimensional than just that dimension, even though it matters. So for us, we have a pretty flexible workforce and going to the office policy globally, which says that we aspire people to be in the office 2 to 3 days a week. But then we give a lot of flexibility to it and say that each team can design to what is most meaningful in their context. And I can only tell you it differs everywhere. For some teams, because they are also then maybe physically close, they choose to go to the office way more often. Of course, in a manufacturing environment, that's a very different conversation. There you simply have to be to build something physical. But we also have very distributed teams across, we have around 150 locations only in the United States. Imagine how many across the world. So we have very flexible teams. And this has worked for us. And when I hear other companies say, oh, people are not engaged or they're not coming back, I see the opposite. I see that our people absolutely value the flexibility. What you need to do is to foster the conversation on a team level and to figure out what works for the respective team. That nonetheless the objectives, of course, are created and that it's the environment people need.
And I'm guessing that that's been a kind of fluid process too, probably. In terms of what I've heard over the past few years of how companies have approached return to office or flexible work, it seems like you constantly need to be evaluating what's working, what's not working, and revisiting it. Is it going to continue to be a process for you, do you think, going forward?
I think that's a part for all of us. Huh? Change is hard and it's there all the time. So we better get accustomed to that. And we need to continuously review where we are and what is working at all levels of the organization. And what I can do as a P&O head is to create the forums and the space that these conversations take place, and that we very much infuse and instill that into the leadership development. I think also we wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of, we call them first-line managers. Why? We had over a number of years, a lot of focus on senior leaders, which is important. Tone from the top is super important, and they play a critical role to develop the strategy of their area of responsibility. But where the true people experience sits is usually in your direct environment. It's your direct manager. It's the people you work with. And therefore, we at the moment also, in addition to being, of course, very conscious and strategic about which people we put into which very senior roles, is to think about what can we do to help our first-line managers create the workplace that their people and teams can thrive.
Sure. Yeah, you've alluded to all of the change that HR has seen in the past several years. Can you just speak a little bit to how has your role evolved in the past 5 years? Where do you feel like your demands have shifted the most, or where is your focus now that it wasn't before?
What do you guys think? Has the role of P&O, or we call it people in organization, HR, shifted a lot? Yeah. I can only say yes, it has shifted significantly. I personally, I am in the space of human resources or people in organization relatively newly. So prior to this role, now heading people in organization for the United States, I have had the pleasure to lead learning and development globally. So I was very much into reimagining careers and our approach to learning and capability building. But I was in strategy, I was in sustainability, I was in sales, I was in consulting. So I was also an example of this careers as option rooms, I would say. And when I look also from that perspective, how I have seen the role of HR evolve, not having been part of that for quite some time, is it really shifted from being a service provider with shared services in the back end for the core processes of payroll, travel, whatever it was. While we still have to do that, on top of that, it has then changed to more a partnering model that in addition to that, we consult with the businesses and we help to create strategic workforce planning and the different tools and methods to help to create the workforce that is then needed to drive business success. And I think yet, over the last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, we are the third leg of a stool. I'm in every conversation with the CEO and CFO, and the people conversation is always core of every business strategy conversation. It also should be like that, because our people are the highest value that we all have in our organizations, right? So a lens on talent, on people, and on organization, on we build the organizational capability to make business strategy work, should be part of every conversation. So for me, that's super exciting. I think that's a wonderful place to be. And I'm also lucky that I'm working with leaders that exactly value that always want to take exactly this lens into every conversation.
Sure. I think similarly, there's been a lot of talk around the evolution or the kind of rethinking of workers' priorities and desires over the past couple of years. Is that something that you've noticed manifest in your workforce? Is that shaping your strategy when it comes to what are they looking for when it comes to connecting in the workplace or feeling a sense of purpose?
Yeah, these questions, it's super important and it's not easy to answer. I also sometimes wonder whether there is a one-size-fits-all answer, except for the topic of you're a living organism and you have to adapt and tailor it to almost the person or the team level, and manage the complexity at the same time. So, having said that, I think it's an interesting thing on many topics around the world at the moment that it's almost tensions between different poles that seem opposite, and you need to do both. You need to create physical experience, you need to create virtual experience, you need to enable large learning for all to upskill on a certain topic, and you need very tailored measures for you personally. And you can go through all the different topics. So what I have seen from or hear from our people is that they value the values of our company, that we really thrive to create a strong culture of innovation, of belonging, and that people have fun at work. I think one can never underestimate the topic of fun at work. It's such a positive motivator. It brings so much energy. And we are also lucky that as a company, we have a very strong purpose that people really get behind. It's like if you create the fabric of the total industries we all live in, and you can work on making it more productive, more sustainable, and working for all of us, it's just a nice purpose to come to work every day.
Absolutely, I can imagine.
When you ask me about topics, what matters to our people, it's the work environment, it's flexibility, and it's also the whole topic of benefits that we continuously adjust every year. We always revisit which topics are top of mind. And what I find interesting as a European, so I'm from Europe originally, is, for instance, this growing interest in the topic of childcare and elderly care and support when you as a sandwich in your family and you have to provide for your parents and for your children. It's exhausting times sometimes. Huh? Been there myself, so
sure.
That's a topic we are picking up as an example.
Does Siemens have any interesting benefits in that regard or other ways you're exploring kind of helping ease that burden for your workers?
Yes, we do, and actually it's one of the topics we explore right now to come up with a stronger program. So I think we're already good. We are offering access to childcare and providers we work with so that people can utilize. I personally think there's more that we can do.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's an area that there's so much need right now. Similarly, another topic I think is very in the news in the moment is the kind of risks and opportunities around AI for companies of all shapes and sizes. Can you talk to me a little bit about how Siemens is exploring, both what that looks like from a kind of front-facing client perspective and then also in terms of your workforce management?
Yeah, that's a big one. So I think as a company, we are uniquely positioned to kind of bring together the real and the digital world. We have a strong expertise and history in deep industry knowledge. So we are building trains, as an example. We are building factories so that vehicles get built or beverage can be filled or whatever. We build digital factories, as an example. So to combine our deep industry knowledge with IT and AI and bring things to the cloud is yet a very different level. We are talking about creating a new industrial tech sector that we are inventing as we speak. That brings lots of opportunity, and AI has a huge role in it. So when we think of AI, it's for us a huge business opportunity to think through the right applications and bring that even to the shop floor or to our service technicians out in the field that are working on buildings or on trains. And as a P&O person, we are of course also looking into the use cases for our own workforce, how to make our processes more efficient, how to gain productivity out of it, even though we are careful with the productivity conversation at the moment, because I hear sometimes statements out there that are very high level, like, oh, you should be able to, I don't know, save X% of the total workforce. And that's not how we think about it. While, of course, there should be productivity gain using these technologies, we think about it more, what are the tasks that bring value, where we as humans really bring the value to the table, and how can we focus on those tasks, and how can we get rid of other tasks that can be done easily through the technologies that we utilize. So we have pilots out there. Who of you is trying Copilot? Okay, I can only say try it out. It is really quite cool what you can use it for in your day-to-day life and how much effort it takes away from your own burden of things that at least I personally really don't like doing. So it's more about that. It's that I can focus my time where it's spent best and that I can get rid of certain things where the tools can help me.
Fantastic. I think that's all the time we have, but thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.